I grew up in the ancient city of Kaduna, in the north central, and it was a very beautiful childhood story. Now, there is something particular about the town of Kaduna. It has the College of Aviation. And so within the town, you had several pilots. And among these people, I think there is one particular lady that really fascinated me. She's a wife, she's a mother, and she was a pilot. And she could fly planes in the daytime, and in the evening, she would make it down to church for fellowship in her uniform. I thought it was one of the most beautiful things. And so, as a little boy, I craved to be a pilot. As time went on again, I thought about being an architect. I wanted to build beautiful edifices, fantastic structures that have never been seen before. Fast forward into the near future was that I studied law, and today I'm a trust practitioner within the capital markets. The essence of my discussion with you today is that your world is changing. Everything is changing. Adapt to shine. There is nothing around us that is not ever changing. Change has become very constant. And a lot of people have asked themselves, what was valid 20 years ago is no longer valid today. What was valid 15 years and 10 years ago is not valid today anymore. 17 years ago, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no Twitter. Today, the world cannot move forward without these entities in particular. 10 years ago, discussions around blockchain would have looked like a very alien talk. Discussion around big data, in fact, about social medias and social media influencers, like you have this excellent gentleman and where's the lady here? You would not find them today, but now they are mainstream. Just to let you know, social media influencers can start a war in this world today. We have seen wars, from the Arab Spring that has been sustained on social media. So the world has changed significantly, and every time you wake up, you will realize that the world has moved from where it is. The question today is, how do you adapt in a changing world that is changing frequently and constantly? May I start by saying that it is okay not to know what you will be in the next 5 years or 10 years. Oftentimes, when I speak to young people, one of the most impressive things you find is that there are people who want to, and it's very empowering if you know what you want to do in the future. And for those who don't know or are not sure about what they want to do, they tend to take a back seat because it can be very disempowering. And you ask yourself, what is the route for me? What should I be doing next? Everyone is running towards a particular thing. Will they be doing that in the next 2 or 3 years? We're not particularly sure about that. But intendedly is that all of these things will continue to evolve over a period of time. The question we're asking ourselves now is, where would you find yourself when those marks are changing? You would recall that when the driverless car started off as an idea multiple years ago, people panicked a whole lot. How would there be that there will be a car that would drive and there will be no driver in it? Today, it's a reality, particularly if you live in the United States of America. These realities are upon us. And the question we're asking ourselves is that, will the world remain the same, and where will be my place in it? You remember 2 years ago, the global pandemic tested everything that we trusted. The workplace has changed and evolved completely. Now, remote working is part of our discussions. Just to let you know, I've been working part remotely, which is now called a hybrid, for over 2 years now, because productivity is on a different level. People are realizing now that the impact is cutting across businesses. A pandemic that the world was not ready for shut down the entertainment industry, almost shut down the tourism and the travel industry, literally affected tons and tens of businesses that vanished or dipped significantly in profitability. Yet, these same changes caused the emergence of new businesses, or perhaps businesses that were sometimes inconsequential, and those businesses have risen to a significant top. Now, virtual meeting is a must for everyone. Online became a must. The cinemas shut down, but Netflix opened up. Everyone had found a companionship in their phone and in their devices. And so we saw the rise and the fall of everyone. The businesses that were started by traditionalists, baby bloomers, Generation X, now are facing challenges because they couldn't understand the millennials. The millennials brought a new and a different vibe into the workplace, and it started influencing and impacting on everything. We thought the millennials were a challenge until eventually we now had the foretaste of the Gen Z. The Gen Z will resign without a job, and they will do fine tomorrow without your job. It's amazing that people will take social media as a full-time job and they'll be well comfortable like that. The point I'm making is that your world is changing. Where will be the point of your own adaptation? What I have asked myself is that what would it take for you and I to adapt in such a way that we can begin to make significant changes? One of the first things I have seen across the world, and I've been privileged to be in some different parts of the world, is the adaptability of Nigerians you find around the world. Oftentimes, I'm not a big fan of the Nigerian entertainment industry, the music industry, and sometimes the movie industry. But I had cause to change my mind. I remember walking in the shores of Zanzibar. By the way, Zanzibar is a beautiful place. The corals has some of the most beautiful islands. And it's not an English-speaking country. But the moment the inhabitants hear that you're in Nigeria, the energy level rises unbelievably. People see you in a different light. They see the stars that you are. They see the footballers. They see the artists that you are. They see the movie directors that you are. And they begin to call names. Their disposition change around you. I have walked through the subways of Manhattan in New York, and I have seen a white drummer on electronic drum playing Nigerian music. And around him gathered were Latinos and Caucasians and Asians, and people were dancing, people who had not met each other before. The excitement I felt that day, I almost screamed my head off that I'm in Nigeria, I'm here. You know, it was a beautiful thing to see. And then you have seen that from the sands of the United Arab Emirates, from the European countries and everything from the Middle East and even to the far China, the average Nigerian has found a way to adapt to the changes in where they find themselves and to rise to the point where they want to be. It is all right to sit here and not to have it figured out what you want to be in the days to come ahead. However, the commitment you must make to yourself is a commitment that tells yourself that I want to be the best version of myself. You heard the earlier speaker had mentioned this. There is no combination. No one has your particular idiosyncrasy, and that is what makes you stay true in the times when you are changing. What do I need to make and stay adaptable in a world that is changing every day? First, be curious and stay curious. Everything that opens comes with an open mind. Right now, we are realizing now that even parents are changing their mind about the way they see their children. There was a time when I was growing up, if you were playing football, you are really a rebellious child when you should be reading your books. Today, parents are registering their kids in football academy. Right now, parents are saying, my child has a talent. Now you could see someone who's going for a talent show and their dad and their mom are waiting just outside. This didn't happen years back again. Curiosity means that we are completely open to what the world has to offer us so that we can learn and take what we want to take. The second part is to learn all we can. There are books, there are audio books. If you're not given to reading, begin to absorb the world through you. The screen shows you what the world is. People you interact with, communities like this, open up all the things that you perhaps want to see. Those are some of the learning curves that has brought me to this point where I am. Number 3 is to unlearn. Unlearn means that the stereotypes that you have been confided in, the stereotypes that your background, the things that you're going through, the things that you've seen, your limited ideas has put you through. And those unlearning processes can be very, very difficult. Difficult in the instance that the things which you have to unlearn can be very painful. Finally, on this point is that you will need to relearn. new skills. I have seen between my years of career, people who had no business in a profession or in a particular part rise to the top because they found something in them that was curious and passionate about this certain area, and they started the relearning processes completely. It was an amazing feat that worked so effectively well for them, and they have risen to it. Another thing you must do is to be authentic to yourself. Be true to who you are. The things that make your combination, ignoring the things that make who you are, is a difficult thing in the society. And you ask yourself, would you blend in? I will tell you a story of when I was in the university and I had to represent my school in a moot trial. One of the most remarkable time of my life was walking into Addis Ababa. And when I got in there, we realized that we had students from 162 universities from 29 countries in Africa. It was a massive gathering. The moment I saw everyone in that place, my heart literally sank inside of me. I said, I will not make any difference here. You may be a local star in your university, I won't make any difference here. The competition had commenced and we had gone into the final rounds. When it got to the final rounds, I wasn't trying to win anymore. I wasn't trying to become the best within that competition. But what I wanted to do was to give a narration, an account of my perceptions of the thesis before us from my own personal edification. That was the changing point for me. The bottom line and the end of that story was that I returned back as the best oralist in forensic advocacy for Africa. It's an amazing thing to realize that in the midst of where you are, your adaptability is your key to shining effectively. I want to round up here by saying the story of Joseph, the son of Jacob. He was the story, or perhaps the near perfect story, of adaptation in an ever-changing world. Perhaps the favorite of his father, out of 12 sons. And all of a sudden, he found himself at the bitter end of his jealous siblings, who all of a sudden pushed him into a waterless pit. And yet, he remained true to himself irrespective of that. Then he became a slave. Imagine waking up as your dad's favorite and sleeping as a slave on the same day. Then he found himself in Potiphar's house as a houseboy and rose to become the head of the house. Then what seems like a setback, he found himself in prison. And yet Joseph remained true to who he was. He was a dreamer. He was a man who didn't only dream, but he also interpreted the dreams of other people. From prison, he found himself in the palace, and Joseph became the prime minister of Egypt. Not only did he become the prime minister of Egypt, he became the preserver of then the most significant civilization in mankind. Your story to rising, your key future to becoming who you are, is your ability to adapt in a world that is changing. Thank you for listening.